right, over in Las Vegas, new head coach Josh McDaniels says there's no doubt that Derek Carr is the starter in week 1. So, two-part question here. Is McDaniels saying that because he can help make Carr an MVP contender, plus 4,000, if you're a believer in that, or because he can't find anyone else because it looks like Rodgers and Wilson are staying put, Reid?
Yes. That is my response. Yeah, look, I mean, he has to, right? You have to come into it. And like Derek Carr has been there for a long time. He got that record-setting then contract extension, and which was quickly thwarted by other extensions by like guys like Rodgers. But when you take a look at what the Raiders need, it's Derek Carr, and this is kind of similar to what Pearce said about Cliff Kingsbury, is you got one of two things, right? You got to either extend him to an extension or you got to let him go. And if Josh McDaniels, the signing of this or the bringing in of Josh McDaniels signals that they probably want to keep Derek Carr, because if not, they probably would have gone a bit more defensive minded for their head coach, or maybe stayed with Rich Bisaccia. I don't really think that would have been the smart move. But now you bring in a guy like McDaniels, and look, his tenure in Denver, yes, it was bad, but look at who his quarterbacks were. It was Orton, Kyle Orton, and Tim Tebow. Those are his quarterbacks when he was head coach of Denver. Not the greatest. And so you take a look at Derek Carr. While he had really good, the win-loss ratio from last year with a team that was in a lot of dismantling of everything else, Derek Carr had a pretty good season, right? He had a bad offensive line. He had his best wide receiver / tight end be out for the majority of the season. And one of his speedy wide receivers, what happened, right? So now you've got to take all that into consideration. I think it's a solid play. I think they extend Derek Carr. I think you have to. I think Josh McDaniels is the right call. So I do like the signal, but at the same time, I don't really worry about what he's saying because he has to say it.
Yeah, Pearce, is this some galaxy brain reverse psychology? What do we think?
No, I just think it's really there is a scarce market for quarterbacks. If there was an improvement out there that you weren't going to have to trade away your franchise to get, then maybe they would consider it. But there isn't anyone out there, and they've got other needs, as Reid has mentioned. And if you look at what Derek Carr has done over previous seasons, he's been fine given the situations that he was in, dealing with different coaches, different schemes, poor offensive lines, erratic wide receiver play. If he could have anything consistent around him, he's the only consistent piece of this team over the last half a decade. So if he can get an offensive line just a little bit better and maybe a receiver that lives up to half of their potential, then he's going to be fine. And it doesn't really matter who the coach is.
Geoff, what's your take on this one?
I mean, look, I'm going to break a lot of people's hearts here, and maybe I'll get some hate mail for this. But like you look at Derek Carr's numbers versus like Matthew Stafford last year, it ain't much different, pal. I mean, it's, air yards, Carr is right behind Stafford. Completions over 20 yards, or balls thrown over 20 yards as well. They basically exactly the same completion percentage. Derek Carr basically actually a little bit better than Matthew Stafford. The problem with Carr is he just wasn't on as good a team. He got pressured more. He obviously lost one of his top receivers mid-year. Darren Waller was banged up. He didn't have a Cooper Kupp option. You can win with Derek Carr. Do I want to bet him at MVP? No, I don't know if he's that good. And I'm not suggesting that he is that good or he's some kind of Aaron Rodgers in hiding or something, but he's definitely a solid enough quarterback to win. And I think with McDaniels there, and if they can beef up the wide receiver position a little bit in the offseason, I think he'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, there was Patriots tried to trade for Derek Carr before Tom Brady left New England. And so that they did their due diligence on him a couple of years ago.